Awesome.
Lovely.
Okay.
Hi everyone.
Hi everybody. Hope you're all doing well.
Hope you're all really well and having a lovely Wednesday.
Yeah. And I hope you're having a nice Wednesday, Meg.
Thank you so much.
Even though we're filming this on Tuesday.
Well,
I hope you're having a nice day tomorrow.
I hope you're having a nice day tomorrow as well.
Thanks, hun.
I want the best for you.
I want the best for you.
And we want the best for us.
Rule number 1 in relationships.
Always state clearly that you want the best for the other person.
There is no room for nuance,
Nope.
interpretation. It all has to be stated exactly as you mean it.
You have to communicate exactly what you mean,
Yes.
what you want,
Yes.
and what you want to say at every given opportunity.
But we're going to get all into that, aren't we?
Yeah.
In this week's episode of Keep Growing.
Episode 5 of Keep Growing is all about relationships.
Sustaining.
More specifically, no, I'm joking, like long-term relationships, how we have kept our relationship of 10 plus years going after 10 plus years.
What a succinct way of saying that we've been together for 10 years. That's right, yeah. And, well, it's going to be hard not to talk about our relationship in this one because, it's the benchmark. It's everything that we've got to go off.
Yeah.
But we thought it'd be a good talking point potentially because 10 years is obviously a long time.
It's a decade.
It's a decade. And I personally feel in the relationship that we've never been stronger, that we constantly are just getting better. I feel every day that goes by, I feel like I'm closer to you, but in loads of different ways, like as a person, as a friend, as a partner. And I think that it'd be good to maybe shed some insight on that for people because I'm sure, but relationships they're personal things and they're nuanced. With that said, I feel as if that, especially growing up in our in our sort of in our social circles and seeing the relationships around us, I have definitely felt like you and I are the anomaly in that sense, in that a lot of the time, and I mean this in terms of parental relationships, like my own parents' relationship, or the relationships that have been around me, that were around me in college when we got together, in university.
And that's the same as, like you say, friendships and everything. Like you just see a lot of relationships where there's just a lot of like toxic behavior going on, and a lot of
there can be. And it might be difficult to spot because like when you're in a relationship, I feel like you sometimes get tunnel vision for the person.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And you might not necessarily see that there are things that are happening that aren't great. And I guess I don't know. I feel like it'd be nice for us to be like, okay, well, these are some of the things that we do to maintain our relationship, to maintain that level of closeness.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever. I always look forward to seeing you. I want to be around you all the time. You're like my best friend. I want to always be. There was never a time where I'd be like, ugh.
Yeah,
I need to just get away from her. I need to just.
It's interesting. So many people in relationships, when they do have these, they're on and off again. I mean, We've never had that. We've never had like, oh, this isn't working. We can't be together. We can't make this work. And also, I've just, in 10 years, I have never ever doubted that you're the person for me, or that this relationship isn't what I want, or. And it's funny to imagine that is probably quite rare. And then it can come off sounding a bit naive, as if to be like, well, we've only ever been with each other as like we were both of our first like serious relationships when we were like starting when we were 17. So I don't know, some people might be listening and thinking like, oh well, what do you know, and what do you know about life, or having to deal with that sort of thing. But we can definitely speak for ourselves and speak for our experience of our relationship. And
I think so, and speak to all the positive things that I think that happen in our relationship. And I feel as if that we might be the rarity in the sense that we were each other's first relationships. We we our lives reflect each other, so that, you know, we're both self-employed, we both have certain, we both sort of have a schedule together, so it's almost like we're one person. And, you know, I guess you might get people like that might be like, oh, well, it's lucky for some, blah 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 blah, but then I think those would be the people that would probably need to listen to this the most, because there's probably elements that potentially, if you're not happy with your own life, you're probably gonna bring that to the relationship, right?
Yeah, that's so true. But then that's so funny to think about, though, because when we first got together, we were obviously very young. Like, we're still very young now.
We were 17, weren't we?
We were 17, so you think, like, you know, we weren't even technically adults yet. We were still, like, you know, you're still sort of rounding off, I feel like, in your teens and things like that. And
well, I only seriously feel like within the past 1.5 to 2 years that I've really locked in.
Me too.
You know, like, I feel as
not
if
like locked into the relationship, but
no,
like
locked into me.
Locked into yourself. You know? Yeah, I'm the same, defo.
And that makes me feel as if that the relationship has gotten better, because it feels as if that I'm so locked into myself and to what is important to myself and all those things that are important for me to work on. I feel like you're the same. I feel like we bring that to each other, where we want each other to get better.
But I imagine so many couples will be on that trajectory, and then maybe one party or one half does go through quite a change in their life, and then they can't make it work together going forward. Whereas again, another thing I think we've gotten really lucky at, but also worked towards together, is both constantly feeling like we're growing together and we're going in the same direction, and we, you know, want the same things, not in like a you know, like a 10-year plan, or like want the same things in like, oh, we want to like get a house and have kids. Like, those are like the surface level things, but just in terms of how we treat each other, what we expect of each other, and then, you know, self standards of things, and as a couple standards of things, and it's constantly an ongoing like evolution, really. But
that's true.
We're just lucky that we've like stayed on that train together, you know.
That is lucky, and that, but again, it's so, I mean, I think we're lucky in the sense that when we did get together, we were young, but there was a very keen, I think that we were very much both involved. We both came to the table with 100%. It wasn't like one of us was really trying to pursue the other person, and it wasn't like working, and then, but it was like, well, these days there'll be someone pursuing another person, and they'll be putting in a lot of effort to make it work, and the other person is like kind of keeping them at arm's length, keeping them like not committing, or not fully like not fully seeing a future with that person. And I think you and me have kind of always had this shared, I think from day one there was an intense like desire to be with each other, which is great. And and you know, it's like, okay, not every relationship's going to be like that, but I think that's kind of, that to me would be the starting point. I think, like, if you're thinking that you're going into a relationship and you're getting a vibe where it's like you're more involved than the other person, or you're both just not that bothered, and it's like, well, you know, we might, you know, it's, you know, it works because you know, we're two people. It's like, I think that you would have to maybe, you'd have to seriously sit down and ask yourself, like, look, is this seriously? How much, like, even if you were to say, can we put in 100% effort? It's like, you might, the reality is that you probably won't, because that's going to take up so much of your time. But then it's the idea of being like, even if you did put in 100%, can you get to that point of being like totally infatuated? You can't fake infatuation.
Yeah, you can't fake and you can't force it, you know. That's like,
right, yeah.
It's funny as well that this isn't like a podcast, this isn't an episode like saying like, oh, how to have a full-time like long-term relationship or anything, but it's kind of just about, if you're in a long-term relationship, or if you want one, but you like go through several partners or something, and then there's always something that's not there. I guess this episode, I hope, is gonna just be like our experience of things that we've found really important in sustaining this long-term relationship, and just like, because I never want to, I feel like the world is so it definitely pressures you to like couple up, you know. It's like
well, I think
it's
in
such
our
a
culture, I think
our
in
culture, yeah, it's very like societal.
in school,
In school, yeah, it'd be like,
who's
oh,
getting
who's
with
with
who,
who?
who's
Yeah,
getting, who, what are the dynamics there, who's
yeah,
who's and usually, and a lot of the time, I think it is there's a heavy toxic sexual element that's driven to it. It's
yeah,
like, I remember in school it was like, the whole thing, oh, who's losing their V card,
yeah,
who's still got their V card, it's like who's
yeah,
a
yeah,
virgin, who's not, who did what behind the bins or whatever, and like all that crap.
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
and even into uni, it's sort of like, it's like, oh, you go to a party, and
Gets
it's
to
like,
say
oh,
it's just basically the same thing at uni, isn't it? Really, like
it just
yeah,
intensifies, and that in itself is a shame. But I would just, to bring it back, I would also like, I'd like the thought of being like, well, we might be able to, we can talk about our experiences, but that in turn then might be a bit illuminating for people, because it might be
yeah,
like, well, look, we didn't have a conventional together story, but we had but it was a lovely,
yeah.
the fact that we got together when we did.
It's
It was
almost
quite,
what people would consider like ideal. You know what I mean? But
it is quite ideal, yeah. But at the same, that's not to say though. It's like, but we were probably not too focused on those things. Like we probably, I think you and I came from a place of, we weren't in those groups that were like, oh, like who's getting in a relationship, who's having sex first. Let's talk about that, like with your friends. Like that to me
yeah,
would feel very strange to be sat around a room at 17, 18 talking about sex in that way. Because it almost becomes, it's almost like you're just putting it on a pedestal. You're trying to champion
yeah,
the sex more than you are
yeah.
in the relationship when you're younger.
Yeah,
at least.
yeah. But even in your 20s though, put in a relationship. So many people put being in a relationship on a pedestal. Like
Yeah.
I think some people, and people that have spoken to me about this, or friends, or just people that you meet, and they want a partner, they want a boyfriend, they want a girlfriend, they want to have someone to like share experiences with, and it's almost like, oh, like
kind of at any cost.
kind of at any cost, yeah. And it's like, oh, like either you're romanticizing the idea of having this person, like your soulmate and everything, and you're romanticizing it, or you just get fixated on a person and think this person will, once I get this person, like everything will just be okay because I'm, like you're romanticizing them and stuff. And I think that can be a tricky one because, like I was saying, like society is so like geared towards you coupling up and like meals for two, doing this for two, like, oh, everything's like, oh, you need to have a person, you need to be settled down by,
And I think the problem with that is, I think people forget that it's like, if you're going into a relationship, or let's say you're in a relationship and you're like 20% of the person that you could be, right? So let's say you're in a job that you don't like, and you're not looking after your body, you're not looking after your health. You might be low-key resentful because you're not doing the things that you want to do. Now you take that and you bring it into the relationship, right? So now it's like, so you're reflecting that in somebody else, and they're probably going to reflect it back to you, because there's a chance that, well, it's couples, you reflect what you do, right? It'd be really weird if like one of us was a massive gym nut and we worked, and the other person was like in a Betfred every, it would just be weird. We probably wouldn't be with each other. It's interesting to me that people don't put on a pedestal, or maybe they do now, but the idea of being like, I'm comfortable with doing as much work on myself as possible and getting myself as close to my like peak form that I can, so that when that opportunity does come, I'm just gonna embrace it.
I'm being my best self.
I'm gonna be able to flag up. I'm going to be able to immediately identify if there's something in there.
Like red flags.
It's like, that's not good. I've been there. It's not going to work. I can just cut that out.
Yeah.
Or you can lean into it where you go like, oh wow, this person's like just like me. They've been doing work on themselves. They've been, they've been doing this. They've been doing that. They look physically healthy. They sound like they're in a healthy position with their job or their other relationships around with the people.
Yeah. They've got their own life together. They're not seeking like validation from possibly a partner that needs to like complete them. That's like the most attractive thing, is just when someone's
cool.
They're just good in themselves. They're doing good things for themselves, and it's like You know that whole like, oh, like you attract, don't chase. Have you heard all this sort of thing before?
No, I've not, but I can.
It's
yeah, I
like
get the gist, yeah.
it's as like it's kind of like a cringy. It's a bit of a cringy like Pinterest girly quote, but that thing of like, if you're putting time and effort into yourself, into your own well-being, your mental health, your daily life, your physical health, you're attracting good things happening to you, and then in turn like good people, rather than seeing someone and thinking like, oh, I'm gonna like chase after them, or I'm gonna or you're gonna see someone and see like maybe 10% of them, there's like little things that's good about them, so then you think you can change the rest of it, and it's like, no. I don't really think people can, like, not that people don't change, they definitely do, but if you're with a partner and there's like, there's like a list of attributes, that's a line from a Stroke song, but there's like, 27 attributes, only 7 that you like. Do you know what I mean? Something like that. Like, so you cling on to those. You cling on to those, and then think you can make the rest of it go away or something, or things like that. And it's like, not to say that people have to be perfect. It's not about perfection, but
it's not. But there's also been an element of our relationship where I think we got together and I feel like we were very much in love. We had that that idealistic.
Yeah,
very
we were just
infatuated.
We were just obsessed with each other.
Yeah, not to
a silly level.
Degree,
no, not to like a serial killer level, but
yeah, exactly, yeah. But we were very much in love. We spent every day with each other. Couldn't wait to. Still feels like that, by the way. Like, that's not an exaggeration. I still feel excited just about being here with you, like doing stuff. I've lost what I was gonna say. Is this, what was I gonna say?
You were saying when we first got together, we were very infatuated with each other. We were spending every waking minute with each other. There was like a definite yearning, in a sense, that everything was new with each other as well. You know.
But I feel like what happened with me is that I feel as if that I got to maybe 23, 24, and I think I started to look at myself, and I was like, around that time I'd put on like a lot of weight. I was smoking excessively, drinking excessively, smoking pot. It's just waking up at 10 in the at night and going to bed at the 10 the following day or something. And it was like, and I was resentful. I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. I was chasing all the wrong things, quite bitter. I remember thinking to myself, like, something has to really change within me now. Like, I have to step this up. I have to totally re-chisel myself out and start again. And I think I probably reached that sort of like epiphany sooner, because I think I was more down the line of this is getting a bit ridiculous now. Like,
yeah, and you had like a bit of, you had an ongoing health problem as well that was really debilitating.
Couple of health issues that were outside of my control, but they, not that that was an excuse, but they played into it. And then, so if you look at the scale, I was probably close to the scale of like, this is getting worse and worse and worse, to the point where it's gonna just become really unimaginably difficult. And you were probably more, not like neutral. You were probably behind me, but not as bad. So you probably didn't have that much of a thing. You weren't overweight. You weren't like struggling with that and stuff. And still, you weren't thinking about where we are now. We both weren't great.
No, we weren't great. We weren't like, we weren't like in the pits of like hell.
I thought I was in the pits.
Oh yeah, no,
you
were defo in the pits of hell.
Yeah.
I was more like, you were in the pits of hell, therefore, and I was. Imagine you're in the pits of hell over the edge.
Not hell. I would just say I was just in the pits.
You're in the pits. You're in the pits, and I'm not in the pits technically, but because we are one.
Yeah.
I'm like holding on to you over the edge.
Yeah, that's
with,
good.
Like holding on to your arms and stuff.
Yeah,
so my head and my arms are in the pits.
Yeah. And lucky that your bum is so big.
Luckily, my ass anchored me to the real world. and
I think that what happened there with me is I was like, okay, like I need to change. I need to totally do a 180. And then I did. And then But you know what I'm like, I feel like I'm able to do those snap changes quite quick,
Yeah.
and then get into it, and then I feel like then over the course of 2 years I've gotten to a point of being of refinement. But then I feel like I've been able to, not in a self-righteous way, but then I've been able to, sort of not bring you up in a sort of like God complex way.
You've elevated me though as a person,
but then
over the past few years.
Yeah, in certain things, just with things that I slip easier into, like exercise and certain mindsets of setting goals. How do you reach those goals?
Yeah.
But then through bringing you up, then you've sort of taken over. Then you'll bring me up, and then it's sort of like this constant rise where we're trying to get each other to the top.
We both just constantly want to keep each other in like a check situation of like, are we doing the best we can? Like, are we really reaching as far as we can go? And just always just wanting, and seeing each other succeed and seeing each other have wins and feeling those wins together. And me looking at you and I'm thinking like, God, Mike, like, he's killing it. He's doing everything. He's this and he's doing that. He's going to the gym. He's making this work. He's getting this work done. He's whistle. He's like, did you hear that whistle?
Yeah. What the hell was that?
He's it was just my lisp. He's he's doing all of this, and it's like I see that, and it inspires me so much and motivates me so much, because I not only want to be doing that to like keep up with you, but then it's like I want you to look at me that way. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want to better myself, so you're looking at me.
Definitely.
And then bringing you up, if I'm like, oh, I want to bring that like energy and positivity and like, fueling you and, pouring myself into things that I'm passionate about to set a good example for you. And you obviously do all that for me, and you sort of started the like chain reaction of that for us, I think a few years ago.
But I think only because I reached my bottom quicker.
You did. I didn't necessarily have like a rock bottom.
And but it was important for me because part of that incentive was being like, I was like, I'm not just hurting myself here, I'm hurting you and I'm hurting the relationship. Like, if I'm not looking after myself and I'm becoming this person that's not on top form, I'm just impacting your life now. Now I'm making your life miserable. I'm making things difficult for you. I'm making things harder than they have to be. Not even like the sense of adding a sense of pressure. It's like I'm forcing your mindset to change into worse, into worse not for better.
Yeah.
So there was a conscious thing on my part where I was like, I am doing this for me. It has to be for me, but I'm also doing it because I want to bring something into this relationship where then we're like, okay, we need to work together and help each other get out of this and get stronger and get better.
Like if you're on a plane that's going down, you have to put on your own oxygen mask first before you put on the other person's. Like that quote makes me laugh though, because it's like, imagine you've got like a toddler next to you. Like, you obviously do your kids first, you know what I mean? Like, that's, but I guess the sentiment behind it though is your toddler's just looking at you like, what the hell? But I think the sentiment is like, if you can't look after yourself, how can you look after this person that means everything to you? And
that's it. And I think maybe that is something that when I understand that is a very specific situation there. It's like someone reaches their bottom, or things get very difficult, and then they say, right, look, I need to rebuild, so I'm going to try and not just rebuild my life for me, I'm going to try and rebuild it so that my partner's life gets better as well. And but I feel as if that maybe that is something, and I'm not picking anyone out or pointing at anyone, but I just mean on a generally speaking, it's like in the relationships that I've seen, or the relationships that have, that have been around me since I was young, or the relationships that I come across just now transiently with people, you get the impression that maybe it is not so much about the idea of like, how are you and I every day challenging each other to the point where it's like, what could we be doing better? What conversations could we be having? How are we growing in every facet of our life? So not just financial growth is important, and you know, that's something that we're conscious about. But how are we growing on a personal level? How are we sort of falling more into that hole of just being in love with each other deeper, you know, like having deeper connections with each other? And I think that there's probably certain ways that you can get on that level. Not that, you know, we're setting that level, I just mean like, but that thing of having those, being like, look, if you're not happy with your own life, you have to start thinking about it in terms of like, if the person that you're with is the person you love more than anything, and I think you have to be brutally honest. It's like, do you actually love them more than anything, more than your own life, or are you just do it together because it's like, you know, you're together? If you feel that way about someone, you have to, surely you would say to yourself, I want to bring their life up. I want them to be happy. I want them to be I want to provide for this person as much as I can in life, because I want them to be the happiest that they can be, right?
That's got to be the main takeaway, isn't it? You know, with this episode, like, being about relationships and, you know, more specifically like a long-term partnership relationship, it's so easy to think about it in that sense of like, oh, well, this is how you've got to do it, this is how you've got to be a good couple. And it's like, no, like, it always has to come down to yourself. Like, you're responsible for yourself. And then, you know, if you've got a partner, you're looking for a partner, like, you've got to be good within yourself. You've got to be setting things up for yourself that are for you, that then you will meet someone, or someone will meet you and be like, oh, I want that. I want to share that with them, you know, rather than like just sort of being blasé about it.
And that's the thing though. I think it's because when you talk about relationships, you think that you're talking about two people, but I think fundamentally you've always got to take yourself out of it and be like, am I thriving? Because if you're not, and you're not doing great, it's going to be very hard for you to then try and do that for two people, right? It's like you've got to, and I think there's been times where, again, you know, with the whole business thing about like, I'd been self-employed doing my business for longer, and then you were at a point where you were like, I don't want to do this work anymore, I can't do it. And I was like, well, let's stop. Let's seriously like change. You had lots of friction getting to that point. You didn't snap into it, and you just weren't like, yeah, cool, I'll just, great,
no,
like, I'm ready.
Not. I mean, I had so many jobs, like, I was always in a job, you know.
Which is really impressive.
Yeah, it's good. Like, you know, it's definitely a work ethic that was there, but it was a work ethic that was like, oh no, I actually don't think I'm capable of anything except for getting jobs. Like, I can be in this job. When something's going wrong in this job, or it's closing down, or I get the sack, I'll just find another job. You know, things like that. Like, whereas I never actually stopped to think, oh, like, maybe I don't have to do this, like, rigmarole.
But maybe that's an example there of, like, you know, and I think as well that we had this conversation the other day, that I do think that the responsibility falls slightly, and this would be interesting to see what people think of this. Like, I think that it falls slightly more on men to take that role, and not in a way where it's like it's men's duty to bring women up. That's not what I'm saying, because women are...
I think that's true, though.
Well, in a certain context, it's true. Yeah. But women, you know, that's not me saying that. Obviously, women are strong and empowered, and they don't need men. You know, men can be terrible people. But in the context of a relationship, I think that, typically speaking, men, it might be easier for men to be like, okay, I'm gonna pursue a certain goal, right? I'm gonna pursue that, and I'm not saying that women can't do that, but I feel like in my relationship, it was like, okay, I can seek out a certain goal. I know what the goal is. I'm going to get that goal, and I would get it. And then I'd be like, right. And then I would feel then that it was easier for me to bring that to you and be like,
yeah. And like, you want that for me. You don't want me to like be, like, and that's like the positive, I guess, like positive masculinity sort of thing.
Right. Or positive, like playing into, I think that gender roles are not always a bad thing. I think sometimes
they don't always need to be a bad thing at all.
Especially when I feel like there's biological factors that are involved. I think that there are times when you can look at a relationship and go like, okay, I'm going to lean into that idea of like, okay, I'm going to lean into being like, how can I provide for you? Yeah. Because it's easier for me to slip into that mindset of how can I go and get something.
I get you.
And then I bring that to you in a way, and then it's like, okay, you take that and like, okay, I can I can sort of not copy, but I can sort
no,
of
but
like
I can have that mindset as well, and then we're both fueling and cycling each other rather than one person feeding in. But I know what you're saying. I think like, you know, and if it's funny, like if you're in a straight couple, it's like the gender role things are so easy to slip into, which you can think, oh no, like this is bad because you're going out and earning all the money and doing all this, and I'm like doing, you know, maybe more like traditional female roles and like housework, you know, child rearing, which is work in itself. It's just a different type of work.
We don't have any children. That's the only reason.
We don't have any children. Yeah, but you know, like if I do more housework and do more like cooking and things like that for us, I get a lot out of that because I don't know, I'm just more that way inclined. Like I prefer to have my own schedules of like cleaning, and then I like to cook for us because that's something that I enjoy doing anyway.
Right.
So it's like, why wouldn't I do that? Like if that's how I can support us. Do you know what I mean? It's not I don't do it for you, like as a soul. Do you know what I mean? Like it's how I can contribute to us as like a couple.
Well, that's interesting because it's almost as if that what we're doing naturally is what's happened is that we've naturally began to compensate where the other person needs the support. And it's by coincidence that it's like they would be things that are associated with typical gender roles.
But then we do have subversions of that, you know, like
of course it's not like
I'll go out and work. I work for myself. I'll go and earn money. I won't be at home doing, you know, twiddling my thumbs or anything. I'll be working, and then, you know, you'll cook meals for us as well, and you'll do housework as well. So
and it's also deeper than that. It's not as superficial as like I make more money, you do more housework. It's like there's you bring a lot into the relationship in terms of the emotional side, in terms of like I feel like you always help me look at things from, can I be more empathetic? Can I be more understanding?
That's so true.
I find that I go into these situations sometimes where I'm like very black and white. It's very clear. And you might be like, well, look, you're not taking into account all these different emotional factors here.
Yeah. That's like, it's complimenting, isn't it? And
that's right.
Again, this is like, we're just talking about like straight couples because we're a straight couple, but it's complimenting.
If you're a gay couple,
I think
that's
power
absolutely
to you.
Awesome. I think that's
power
awesome.
To you.
Like that.
Yeah, we'd love that for you. Like, that's great.
Yeah, you guys don't have to worry about any of this. You guys,
just switch off. You guys got it figured out.
You guys.
But us being a straight couple, it's like.
And again, this is just a thing that is like this. This is our relationship, right? This is I suppose that we can, but you know, you can I feel like people can still take parts of what we're saying and perhaps put that under
it's
the
just
microscope.
playing to your own strengths, isn't it? Like, you know, that thing where people go like, our relationship should always be 50-50, and it's like,
no,
I don't know if that's possible, because then
it's not, is it?
You know, you just need to recognize the other person's needs and wants. What you need to know your own needs and wants, and be able to clearly be constantly just telling each other exactly what it is that you need and what you want. Like, don't wait for the other person to guess or to like get resentful that they're not figuring it out.
Exactly.
You can obviously, I know everyone says like, oh, communication's key, but it is. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's got to be the biggest
thing, isn't it?
I feel as if that I had this conversation with Liv, my sister, the other week, and we were saying how like with communication, it's that I would have in the past, I've done these things where it's like something would bother me in the relationship and I wouldn't feel like I could talk about it, so I wouldn't, and then I would just go dead. It's like and then you'd be like, what's the matter, what's going on? And it's as if I was unreachable and you couldn't get to me, and I couldn't even articulate what it was that I was upset about, and it would, you know, it'd get deeper and deeper and deeper, and then it would become so much more worse than what the actual thing was about. I definitely get that from my parents. That's a generational thing. Well, I say that, but now I feel as if that over the course of maybe 5-6 years, you and I now are totally like we just always talk.
We're
always.
Constantly, yeah. We're always just checking in, and that that can be. It's a lot of like, we know, we have disagreements. We have times where we feel like the other person's not quite like done something that you would come to expect of them. Like, oh, why didn't you? How come you didn't do this for me? Or like, oh, I would have liked it if you'd have.
Where was the self-awareness?
Where was the self-awareness
in the relationship
about the other person? And we have loads of things like that, but each time we just talk about it. And
we had a conversation yesterday about this.
We did, literally.
But what was great was that we sat down. It started off as like oh, okay, like there's something there that was like, I mean, how much do you want to go into it?
Go into it, yeah.
Just as maybe, maybe just we can go on a surface level, because it might be interesting as an actual real life example, right?
Yeah.
And we don't have to iron out every detail, but like it started off as a. It's not so funny thinking about it now. It's not so funny. Okay, so, and this is like, I actually think this is great because I think this is very real. This is very real life. Like,
go on. I don't even know what you're gonna say. I don't even.
Just about yesterday.
About like the dishes.
No. It was no. It started off originally with we were shopping.
Dinner. That's it.
So we'd been out shopping, food shopping, and I think we were shopping in Tesco, and I said, and now just a minute from our sponsor Tesco. I said like, oh, I think I know what I'd like for dinner tonight.
Yeah.
And then I said, I think I'd like chicken fried rice. And that was like, so I just said that. And then you came back and your response was,
fuck off. No, my response was,
you feel comfortable talking about all this?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Okay. Like, I thought, I don't want to make that meal. I don't even like that meal anymore. I used to like it a lot, and I used to love making it, but then I've gone off it. It's one of my ick foods now.
Even though you started it, and you got me hooked on it because of it was, you wanted to try it out.
And I told you this like a few times. I didn't really like that meal anymore. I've really gone off it. So when you said, "Oh, that's what I want," I thought, I'm gonna have to go home, wash up all these dishes from the night before, and then cook 2 separate meals. Yeah. Because I want to make you what you want, but then I'm not going to eat it myself, so I'll make something else. Mm-hmm. And this got me riled up.
And in Tesco, it wasn't. You say riled up, like the extent of what this looked like was you just basically going like, oh, I don't really want to do that. I'd have to cook 2 meals. You weren't screaming.
My initial response though was very, very like, oh, like this has annoyed me.
Right.
When. Like what we were saying, like, but then it's like, I didn't, we've spoke about this now, but in the moment, I didn't stop to think, right, Mike's asked for this meal for tea. Bear in mind, so the night before.
So now, this is the context. This is
like
around
in the big context,
This isn't a typical, I turn to Meg and say, I want chicken fried rice.
Yeah, I don't want to make it, and then it's like, that's the moral of the story.
Yeah. Always have the woman cook for you. That's not the moral here. The moral was that, so all weekend you'd had a pop-up.
I've been busy all weekend.
All weekend. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you'd had a pop-up in a very fashionable retailer's. I'm not sure if we can disclaim.
Name drop.
If we can name drop.
Louis Vuitton. It wasn't Louis Vuitton.
No, but it was a pop up in a high street shop. Yeah. It was great, and you were there for 3 days, full 9 till 7. 9 till 7, full days. I'd also been working.
Yeah.
I'd been gigging usually from around 7 to 11.
10, 11, yeah.
But I'd also been doing work in the day, and I'd also tried to be as much hands-on as I could.
Oh, you were? You brought me lunch every day. You you bought me food of an evening when I couldn't be bothered cooking when I got back. You were getting us food.
Right, so a couple
took us to the cinema, things like that.
So a couple of those. So over that weekend period when I'd usually be gigging. So if I'm gigging, you usually pick up the slack on the cooking because I physically can't. I'm out for those dinner hours. So for on the Friday, I bought you some food for dinner.
Yeah.
And then Saturday you prepared dinner for us, which was very thoughtful, very nice, considering you had been working all day. Then Sunday, after we finished for the weekend,
Yeah.
I took us to the cinema,
Yeah.
got you some food,
Yeah.
watched a film,
That was lovely.
and then
the one thing you asked for after that was chicken fried rice.
So then on the Monday, I was like, oh, okay, I feel like I've done a lot of the, I've gotten your lunch, I've gotten your dinner.
Yeah.
You did make dinner for me one night.
I did, yeah, but I think like overall moral of the story, like, in the moment, my reaction, and again, maybe that's like in my family, everyone was very reactionary, you would say, and like rather than bottling it up, very like reacting to things. So I was reacting poorly to this request that you'd made,
right.
And then we sat and we talked and we go back and forth. Then it's like,
but then some other interesting things came out about, it was like,
then it was about, oh well, you didn't do the dishes this day, and this was that, and oh well.
But when we sat down doing all this, there was no shouting, there was no screaming. I don't
think we ever really shout.
There was no sniping either. There was no like underhanded comments. It was all very much like we sat embraced. You sat on my lap, and we were holding each other, and we were talking.
That's always a nice thing that we do, I think, when we're having like a disagreement about something.
That's
it's like,
right.
Rather than it's like, okay, it's me versus you.
Yeah.
Trying to reframe it and being
let's get close. Let's come together.
Yeah, it's us versus this problem that we aren't seeing eye to eye on.
That's right. This is us versus a problem that you brought to the relationship.
Yeah.
And then I think that was interesting, because then it was because you made a point of saying like what would have been helpful is that if I would have done the dishes.
Yeah.
Because
I wouldn't have had any time to do them.
Yeah.
But then, so that people are going to be dead bored by this whole segment.
Why?
It's just a silly spat that we had.
I think this is good, because I think this is real life, and I think a lot of people will probably have these like these micro things,
domestic-y things like
I feel like for a lot of the time it's not going to be this thing where the guy turns to the girl and says something like you
called me fat.
It's over, and then it's the rain is outside and someone runs after him, and it's like, Clark, and it's
it's funny though how that is depicted as these big moments when really no, I think instances like last night, for example, when they build up and you don't really talk about it and you don't communicate what's happened in a situation,
100%.
that can just snowball, and then that can be the reason that your relationship ends because of these small micro.
It's your day-to-day, right?
It's the day-to-day.
What are the day-to-day things that you're not looking at, that you're not putting under the microscope?
Yeah, and if you're a stubborn person, like I can be really stubborn at times, I think it's definitely something I'm trying to let go of more and more. But
you've gotten so much better.
Thank you.
You really have.
I appreciate
you
that.
You really have, yeah.
But I was very stubborn in that moment because I was like, no, I'm going to just speak my mind. I'm going to say this and blah, 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 But then it's like, if you can't get off the seat of being stubborn and be like, you're right. You did a lot for me over the past few days, or you've really expressed this and this and this. And I want to, I don't want this to be like a thing where you ask for something and I've got a bad response to it because,
right.
like you say, in the context of looking at a few other things, it's like, that's more than fair, and it's like, and I'm happy to bring that to you, like,
and that was something that
having that insight of what the other person might want and need,
exactly,
being able to anticipate that for them, not to say that everyone needs to be a mind reader, but I do think, again, we're talking about long-term relationships, like when you have been with a person for 10 years, you have to like come to expect what they expect from you.
Well, isn't that, I feel like that to me seems like that is where that's like the mastery level of the relationship.
Yeah.
Where you've reached like a sort of zen.
Yeah.
Where you and where you're the other person does all the things that they know that you could use help with, that you lack slightly, the things that you desire, if it's to do with like what makes you feel special, what's the love language that really helps me communicate my love to you, where you don't necessarily ask for it, it just happens automatically, and that happens with us, and there are times where it doesn't, and there are times where you get very busy and things are taking over your life, and you're like, oh, you know what, look, I think we just need a bit of we need to reconnect with each other a bit.
There needs to be reconnection. There needs to be like just a check-in, you know, of like, how are you feeling? Like, and we always ask each other, like, you know, is there anything I can do for you in this time? Because that might always change, and or things like, it almost does just become like not like a muscle memory in the sense of it becomes dull or like monotonous, but it's just like fueling. Both of us are constantly stoking the fire of like our relationship. And when one person is busy and can't quite do it, the other person knows exactly what it is that can, you know, really get the fire burning, you know. And
sometimes you can't. That's another thing. Like, that's something that you were talking about your stubbornness, which, you know, and it's like, you know, you weren't always. It's like the idea of you being super stubborn.
No,
I don't think you were always
like,
super stubborn.
No,
you have a bit of you always had a bit of stubbornness, and you've done really well to sort of try the self-awareness that you've had to be
it's
like
just taken rather than being immediately reactionary. Is that a word?
Well, it's that thing reactive. Of just like
rather than being super reactive about something in the moment, it's like just being like, well, no, hang on, like hear this out.
And you're really good at that now. I see. I can see it in your face when I'm talking to you. I can literally see the cogs where you're sort of like, I'm really listening. I'm really being attentive to what this person's saying. And I think maybe that's something that I fell down on, and that I wanted to try and do better on, in terms of like maybe in the past, like you would have said something or done something, and I would have just let it go, because I'd have been like, oh, I love you, you know, I don't want to rock the boat, I don't want to unsettle you, I don't want to make you feel sad.
That makes me sad, thinking that you wouldn't.
No, in the past, you know, like years ago when we were kids, I mean, like, and but that's funny, because a lot of the time I might say something and I might be like, hey, look, I need to talk to you about something, I need to, you know, I need to pull you up, or I need to like, I need to express something. And there might be that conflict where I might be like, look, what you just did there, I wasn't cool with. And then in the past, you might have gone, well, X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll explain it in a bit more detail. And then you might get upset, because then it feels like you've come to that realization that it's like, shit, I actually, maybe I was wrong there. Maybe I was, and now it's like those things that in the past that I was like, like, you know, that wasn't kind of cool. And I've done that as well, and you've been able to say those kind of things. You've then gone like, okay, let me listen, let me sit. What was it that wasn't cool?
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's no tears. It's like, okay, great. Like, I'm glad we spoke about that.
Yeah.
And that was difficult for me, because like, it's not always easy to sort of say to someone like, hey. And it was the same with the chicken fried rice thing. If you'd have said like, no, I don't want to do that, and you know I don't like it. For me, then it's sort of like, I'm never gonna have chicken fried rice again. It's like, yeah, all right, I could make it for myself, but you know, it's nice when you have your partner prepare a meal for you.
Yeah.
So in that moment, it's like, I have to just be prepared now that I'm never gonna eat wifey's chicken fried rice again, which is a horrible world. So, you know, so then it's like, you sort of have to have those conversations where it's like, all right, look, we got to talk about this, because I'm not cool with it.
But it's just the principle, isn't it? It's not even what you asked for. It's that you asked for something, and my initial thing was like, no, that doesn't work for me.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Good.
Instead of having an immediate response of like, yeah, you've asked for something, you've done a fucking lot for me over the past few days, let me do this. Or that would have been like a B.
Yeah.
What would have been an A is if I'd have gone, what would you like for dinner? I'll make you anything you want. Okay. Do you know what I mean?
What would have been an S?
An S?
For like,
I don't think they have S grades.
Yeah, it's on video games. It's like B. It's like, you know, B, C, D. Sorry, I had a stroke. C, B, A, and then S is like it's like star, super. It's like gold. It's like,
I don't know. Just like, I've made chicken fried rice, and it's, I don't know.
You've put on extra hoisin sauce for me.
I put on a full bottle of hoisin sauce
I'm
for you.
I'm a big hoisin sauce guy. Love hoisin sauce.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and that's, look, I'm not trying to. It's not like, oh, because you can't. I think it'd be very difficult. Maybe not. Maybe it's actually very. Maybe if you spend a lot of time with that person, being like, I just, I love you, I care about you, I know what's going to be good for you here, I know what you're going to appreciate.
Yeah.
It's the difference of me being like, you getting after a market, and it's like me saying like, do you want me to run you a bath?
Yeah.
Or there's just a bath waiting for you, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that you're like, oh, like, that's nice. And
I get you. But then it's tough then, like, like you were saying to me last night, you were like, oh, you never like bring me in breakfast like on a tray in bed. And I was like, you would hate that. You hate eating first thing. Like, you would rather fast and go to the gym and then come back and eat. You know what I mean?
I said to, yeah,
like,
and then
if I got in from a market and you'd ran me a bath, I might be like, you might actually think, oh no, Meg's actually going to be really hungry when she gets back. She'd rather eat.
Yeah. And
then if she wants a bath, I'll run her one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But that, I suppose that was over the weekend. I felt that's where a lot of my, maybe not upset, but it's like, because through me bringing you that food each day and being like, I'll take care of that, don't worry about it, that was me trying to show an incentive.
Yeah.
And then it was funny to me because you were like, you know what would have been an incentive? If you would have washed those dishes. And I was like, oh great, cool, like, just nice that all.
But again, that's like a love language thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly.
You were doing something really nice there of like bringing me coffee, bringing me lunch, like coming to see me, coming to spend time with me while I'm like sort of locked to this place for most of the day. But then I guess it's like, if like you'd have gotten back and saw there's loads of dishes, if you'd have done them, it's like that then is like I get home and I can just chill for the night rather than having.
So you could totally make the case that I wasn't being I wasn't really thinking.
But you were. But again, it's like, like I do, like if I'm like doing little things, like I'm doing a bit of cleaning and I like clean up in your room and organise it and put it on
my room. I'm 12 years old, by the way.
Mike's got an office and he just won't admit it.
It's not an office. That sounds so wanky.
It's a room that's yours for your.
There's nothing office.
Computer. Anybody in the world would call that an office.
There's a computer in there, but I don't do like office things on it. I don't print stuff out and do spreadsheets. I've not got a fax machine.
You will at some point. But and I might be like, oh, that's really nice, like I can like reset Mike's space for him and do that. And you've said like, oh, that's really nice when you do that and stuff, whereas I think if you were to like go into our bedroom where my workspace is and like mess about with it, I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, you have not got a clue how this works. Like, my paints.
Yeah, but there's a level. If you tried to get onto my PC and update my G drivers, I'd be like, what are you doing?
I have no idea what G drivers.
Just like drivers, so like the graphics are updated. I'd be like, what's going on there?
Why have you done this? Yeah, so it's
my GeForce drivers. I'd be like, oh, that's not cool.
But yeah.
But it's good that in these conversations now, and it's a constant conversation. You don't just have it and then it's done. It's a constant thing of saying like, what is it I could be doing better? What is it that you want from me recently? Yeah. What is it that
thinking
would be good?
What would be nice for that person today? Yeah. And that might change all the time. Like,
I think we say that a lot,
we always ask each other, what can we do?
Literally, we will just say that phrase, like, what can I do anything for you? What can I do? Or can I do, or do you want to go do this? Do you want to go do that? Or little things that are just, who wants a coffee, or like, who wants this? And just being mindful about, just take you out of the equation and make it about the other person. Yeah. But then don't be afraid to say, hey, look, I've been trying to be better. I feel like I've been putting in this effort.
I've been bringing these things to the table, and I'm feeling like your table is maybe a bit slanty and a bit needs a wash.
And sometimes it's like, have a wash. Always have a wash.
Sounds like the person needs a wash.
Yeah. Always wash.
Always maintain really good personal hygiene.
What's the first thing you wash in the shower?
My pits. I'll go straight in. The soap is fresh on the loofah.
Go on. And it's straight.
I go straight to the pits, scrub.
Really? Yeah.
What do you do?
You won't be able to guess mine.
Really?
Mine's dead weird.
I've watched you shower loads.
Pervert.
Pervert. On my webcam that I've got in there. What do you do? Right, okay, you've stepped in the shower.
I'm in the shower.
You like mess about for a bit. You just like blah.
Mess about for a bit.
Yeah, like you don't get. I've seen you. You don't get straight into it. You put the soap on your little loofah.
What's the first thing I'm going to? Loofah's in the hand. Where am I going?
I don't know. Something tells me you do like your arms or your shoulders or something first.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I can envision that, but then also, I'm sure I've seen you do like your chest. I'm sure it's like.
You think it's chest?
I'm sure that's what I've seen you do. Am I wrong?
You're really close. I do. I do a thing. I will literally start on the hands and then go up.
Do you really?
Like I go up like that.
I've never picked up on that.
Down.
I always feel like I notice you going straight for the shoulders and chest, and then the arms.
Maybe it's like that kind of movement where I go up and then it's like I try.
Interesting. Yeah, I go straight for the pits every time.
Straight for the pits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then that's the area that like needs the best scrubbing, in my opinion.
I would think I would say a different place, but
it's the closest place to you.
Yeah, well, it's the place that sweats a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
You should treat your body a lot like your relationship. Your armpits being like
scrub it in the areas that matter the most first.
Yeah. Focus on the bits that focus on the small. Okay. Focused on the small nuanced part,
bits,
the bits that get used
the most wear and tear
every day.
Yeah.
There's no point in starting off with like your chest,
grand
even though
gestures.
It's the little things. Yeah,
it is the little things that we do every day.
The little things you do every day.
It's little things like putting toothpaste on each other's toothbrush when the other person comes to use it.
That's so sweet. That's a little something that we do.
We do that a lot. It's like, I'm just going to say things you do for me. Like, you put my vitamins out so I don't forget to take them.
Put Maggie's vitamins out all in front of it. You can't see them, but they're just on the table.
They're just there. I haven't took them yet because my drink's too cold. Because you put too much ice in it, honey.
Put too ice in my pomegranate juice, which is £4.50.
You'll...
Which I share with her, including the pills, which I buy. These are like 30, 60 tablets. So, and then it's one a day. So I can get like 2 months out of them. I only get 1 month because of this one. Don't use that phrase. That's a massive red flag.
This one.
Yeah.
I like it.
You like that?
I mean, not really. It's funny. It does make me giggle.
Had a lot of trouble with this one this morning.
Yeah, that sounds bad. That sounds like I'm a car.
Or a toddler.
Yeah.
No, it's whatever you love languages. If you say this one, that's cool.
Yeah.
What are some little things that you do for me? Let me think. Little things that go. Yeah, you put toothpaste on my toothbrush. You always if you're hanging my clothes up, you always fold them real nice, which is really thoughtful. You made me some lovely eggs this morning, which was really. You always make eggs better than I can make eggs, and that's nice. And you say, but you do it in a way where it's like you say, like go and get a shower. And I'll sort breakfast. That's nice. That's a nice thing where I'm like, yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
It's been a nice, cute episode.
Yeah, it has been nice.
After the last one, I feel like we were like lethal in the last one about drinking. We were both really like,
yeah.
Hopefully this has been a nice little comforting one and a cozy one for people.
But I have no regrets about the things I said in that episode. If anyone was, I totally am convicted to everything I said.
Yeah.
It's funny. I had a lot of people message about but saying that they found it useful. Yeah. Saying that it was like the things that, even though we did come off kind of strong, but that seemed to resonate. People were like, "Oh no, look, you." Yeah. A lot of that was right. They felt like it was right.
Did we get any questions about this one, by the way?
Oh, we did. Yeah.
You know what? I'll look at them.
Well, I know that there was, I know one off the top of my head.
All right, go on.
One of the questions that we had was about what do you do if you're in a relationship and one party watches and consumes porn and the other doesn't? What is the... Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. That was a really interesting question. Very, very nuanced. Very, well, probably not nuanced actually, but it was an interesting talking point. So... while Meg's looking at her phone, I can just get started on this one.
Josh, should we make it brief?
How long has it been? We could do like a quick 10-minute max.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10-minute max.
Yeah, like a 5-minute.
Yeah, maximum.
That's the only question that we got, so we'll answer it for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about that? Couples, one watches porn, one doesn't.
I just think I don't think there's any problem that cannot be solved if you communicate about it, because if that's something that, if it bothers you that your partner watches porn and you don't like that, you have to communicate that. If it bothers you that you watch porn and your partner doesn't like that, you have to communicate that. You have to, like, both of you, like, sort of speak what's on your mind, rather than being resentful or, like, hiding it, or feeling shame, or feeling like, oh, like, that really bothers me about them, like, I don't know why they do it, and things like that. Because if you can sit and talk about it and it doesn't even need to be that one of you, like, wins the argument or one of you gets their way, but you have to just be open. And that doesn't always mean that you can reach, like, a compromise. It's like, I only watch porn on Wednesdays, like, but it does need to be, like, a conversation that you sit and have if it's something that's, like, seriously, like, on your mind, because otherwise it just goes on and on and on, and you never really address it, and then it comes up in other ways where it's like, like, it'll just be a little thing. It's like our couples, like we were saying about, like, the dishes. The arguing about the dishes is basically arguing about one of you feeling underappreciated, or that you're not being, you're taking on more of the work and the other person isn't picking up the slack. Right,
absolutely.
But yeah.
That's good.
So it's not really, like, fixing the problem, but again, I don't really, you'd need, like, way more context of what's going on, but in general, I think having just open and frank conversations about the things that are bothering you or the things that aren't working is just the only answer, really, as a starting point.
That's a good response. Yeah. I think that's a difficult one for me to answer objectively, because I think like with alcohol, I have, like, a very sort of negative view of porn, and I think that it'll sound funny, and I bet there'll be a load of guys watching it. I'm like, oh, I don't watch porn, I don't consume porn. People are like, oh yeah, oh did
sure, mate.
Oh, did he say that he thinks it's funny as opposed to sexy?
It's like, I just think it's funny.
Oh yeah, no, I watch it for a laugh. It's like no. But I did watch porn for a long time, and it's funny thinking and talking about it now, because it's like, I used to watch porn and consume porn even though I was in a relationship. And I think it's really nuanced, and I think for women it's slightly different. I think I would just, if it, for it not to exist, I'd be like, yeah, don't, it's wipe it. But for women, I think it's slightly different. For men, I think it's like, guys, like, if you're watching porn, you're seriously, like, you're doing nothing but damage. It's damaging your brain. It's damaging what you think a relationship should be like. How can you possibly think that you're going to watch that porn and you're not going to take it into the relationship, or it's going to affect that relationship in some way? I know from experience it definitely does, and because it's so easy to consume, it's there whenever you want it. The dopamine you're getting from it, it's quick, it's instant. Anything where you have quick dopamine is bad. So I would say, if you're in a relationship like that, I would say it's kind of your responsibility and your role as a man to be like, you don't consume porn. All that energy, that sexual energy that you have, which is totally natural, you should be investing it in the relationship. And that's not always gonna look like, okay, like, a lot of the time guys will have a higher sex drive, younger men, and it's like, okay, you're gonna have to learn what it's like to sort of be like, okay, how can you change the way you think about sex, so it's not this, like, oh, you get in, you have really passionate, intense sex, you get out. It's like, how can you turn that into making your partner feel special and loved and appreciated, and how can you then evolve that into your sexual language, and how can you turn that into something where your partner basically is so, turned on or excited by you, where it's like, okay, great, like, we want to be having as much sex as we possibly can, because it's great for your partner, it's great for you. It's not just about the sex, it's about the intimacy, it's about the communication, it's about the cuddles, it's about the kisses, it's about the little things that you do throughout the day, the little touches or the little glances that Meg's given me now. You know, it's about little things like that help build that sense of true deep like connection to the person. Porn is just like a superficial crap thing that's only going to hurt you. So in a nutshell, I'd say stop consuming it and just put all the energy you have into your partner and into the relationship and trying to make it as authentic and constructive and healthy, because that's what's going to give it longevity, isn't it? That's what's going to it's the deepness and the richness of the relationship that you eventually want to get to, isn't it?
Wow. Nice, Mike. Yeah, that was amazing.
Wow.
Thanks we should
do
a full episode about, you know, porn and about
maybe just intimacy and love
but
languages.
What you were saying just then about porn though is very interesting, and I think a lot of, especially hearing that type of language coming from like a man as well, I think is quite rare. And yeah, I think any ladies out there will be listening and thinking, wow, Meg's a lucky woman. So yeah,
I don't know, I'm not for sale.
do not objectify me.
No, I think
that was really well put.
Thanks, honey. I really appreciate that. I think if that's how a lot of women feel, I think that's a real shame that a lot of men don't take it as like a sense of pride, like a sense of like, I want this woman to feel protected, safe, that we can express ourselves in a way that is sexual, and there is an element of sexual intimacy there, but it transcends that superficial, like, oh, you just get in bed,
fleeting,
exactly.
Very fleeting.
And I think if people's are relationships like that, then you should talk about it. You should sit down and you should really have a deep, honest conversation with each other about those kind of things.
Yeah, we should definitely do another full episode all about that, because I think that it's stuff that needs to be said, I think, that doesn't get said enough. So
yeah, maybe next time, maybe that can be the next one we talk about.
Yeah, I'd like that. Yeah, a little
sex
part
and
2.
relationships.
Yeah,
great.
Sounds good.
Well, thanks so much, Maggie. Thanks for talking to me.
Thanks so much for talking to me. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, me too. Aww. And thanks everyone for listening. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening.
Hope that was nice for you, and was it
let
good for you?
Let us know what you thought. was that good for you? But let us know what you thought, and we love hearing when people have any thoughts and insights into the podcast.
Definitely.
It gives us an element of reassurance that like, oh, like someone actually listened to it, which is always like really nice to hear. Like, don't underestimate the power of just saying like, oh, I had a listen and I enjoyed that, and you know, I got something from it, or even like, oh, I listened to it and like, it's interesting you said this because I feel like this, like
feel free to disagree.
That,
we're all about having conversations, and it's always good to get a sense of feedback and what
absolutely
where people are with their particular journeys, and
we want the conversation to go like out of this room into it. Otherwise it's still good to have it just you and I, but I guess, I mean, we wouldn't be speaking to these mics if we didn't want to hear back from you.
But it's good because I honestly feel like this is a form of it's a form of therapy, and therapy in a sense where we have these conversations with each other all the time.
We do.
So the idea of it being like, let's just put a microphone there, it's that to me feels like it's a low effort way of being like, we'd be doing this anyway if we could share it with people.
Yeah, definitely.
That's good. And it's been lovely. There's for me, but I feel like I've had lots of people. There's been friends that have been like sort of tongue in cheek, like having a joke about some of the things.
That's still nice. But when people do come up to us and say, or they'll message us on Instagram and stuff that they've listened, it does mean a lot, and it definitely gives us a boost for
100%.
For carrying on. So
yeah.
But have a lovely rest of your day.
Thanks so much.
And
enjoy your week. Feel free to always get in touch with us as well if you have any questions or anything.
Absolutely.
We're always happy to talk to people.
Absolutely.
And
we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, look forward to it. Bye.